Paparazzi. I'm Tom Hoffman with One-to-One Media. Joining me today is Deborah Eastman, Chief Marketing Officer at Satmetrix. Today we'll be discussing approaches to operationalizing Net Promoter to help improve the customer experience. Deborah, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Tom. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Tell us how Net Promoter is evolving.
Well, Net Promoter happens to be one of my favorite topics, and we definitely are seeing continued adoption of Net Promoter in the market. We see even greater participation in our online community. We've grown to over 15,000 participants there. We have hundreds of individuals that join us at our conferences and certification, which I think just illustrates the significance around the adoption in the market. And the reason for that is that business leaders really like the simplicity and the ability for them to use the Net Promoter segmentation of promoters, passives, and detractors to really mobilize their organization to improve the customer experience and drive growth. I think what's really changed in the last couple of years, when you ask about how it's evolving, is an increased awareness that's really not about the score. When Fred Reichheld first put the book out, The Ultimate Question, which really popularized Net Promoter, there was a lot of focus on getting a Net Promoter score, and that was somehow going to magically deliver growth. I think organizations are really understanding that this is a transformational change in getting your organization focused on the customer. And so they're having a greater appreciation for the fact that it's an operating discipline that helps to drive that change in a way that helps to increase customer retention, repurchase, and referral behaviors. So in terms of how it's evolving, I think continued adoption by the business community, a real value proposition around mobilizing your organization, but I think an increased awareness on the things that you need to do in order to really get the value proposition out of it.
Given what you've spelled out for us, how did decision makers apply Net Promoter across the organization?
What we see is that one of the benefits of Net Promoter is the fact that it gives you a common measurement system. And if you think about it, usually functional silos have their own measurements. So the product division may have quality metrics. The support division may have time to resolution. The sales organization obviously has their sales metrics. And I think what you really see with Net Promoter is that it does give a common measurement system at the end of the day on how that customer perceives your organization, how willing they are to recommend your organization to their colleagues and friends. So that common measurement system really does mobilize the organization and create a cross-functional alignment around the measurement. Now, how you achieve results comes from the actions that you take. And I think that the fundamental shift that we see with companies that adopt Net Promoter is they've moved from your traditional customer satisfaction, customer loyalty type measurement program to a really active organizational improvement program or customer experience improvement program. And what that requires is that you're driving action in the enterprise. And that requires that you get information to employees. And we talk about democratizing information, making that available to every employee in the enterprise. Frontline employees get information that help them to improve the customer experience one customer at a time, and management and executives get an understanding of how you're performing with the customer across the entire customer journey. So it's really important that you understand this action component because that's where the improvements really come in. Just give you an example of that. A lot of our customers manage what we call closed loop processes. And so if I have a customer that comes into a support center and that experience in the support center is not a positive one and they return a survey that puts them as a detractor, they'll build closed loop processes where maybe an escalation team or a call center manager or team leader will actually contact those customers back, understand the root cause of the issue, and try to resolve their issue. And even if they can't resolve the issue, they'll really get more insight in terms of what they're doing organizationally that's impacting that customer experience. And then have an opportunity to work cross-functionally to make those improvements that you need to make that are affecting that customer experience and affecting their willingness to recommend you to others. The other thing that's really important about achieving results is that you have to understand that this is a fairly comprehensive program. And it can be complex because if you think about it, large global corporations have multiple, we look at things from a functional perspective. We look at the sales department, the marketing department, the product department, the support department. And the challenge here is that the customer looks at it from their journey. I buy a product, I get support for a product, I use a product. You also are dealing with geographic boundaries. You've got different geos across the world. You might be operating differently in Asia Pacific through distribution, and maybe in North America you have direct. So the complexity of your organization is also reflected in how you manage your customer experience. So you also have to understand that these programs, in order to achieve the results, you need to be able to manage that complexity and look at things from multiple points of view within your enterprise.
Can you point to some examples of companies that you feel are doing a really effective job of taking this type of information and turning it into action?
Yes, I have lots of great examples on that. So let me give you a couple. We'll talk about both B2B and B2C type companies, because clearly when you're looking at how you improve the customer experience, the types of relationships that you manage are going to be different between B2B and B2C. So if you go back to the concept that fundamentally what you're doing here is driving action in the enterprise that improves the customer experience, and the result of that is a higher Net Promoter Score. Let me give you a B2B example. So we have a client, Agreco. Agreco provides utility services to government and large organizations. So when the tsunami hit in Asia Pacific or when New Orleans flooded in North America, they would come in and provide the infrastructure to provide power for those parts of the world. And so they have a very sophisticated business-to-business relationship with their customers. And what they do is they collect customer feedback after the usage of their infrastructure. And they've had several situations where their account teams get an immediate alert if somebody responds and they've responded as a detractor. And an example would be that they would then pick up the phone and contact that customer and say, I understand that you had an issue with your most recent experience with us, and I would like to understand more about what happened there, see if I might be able to address that, and as a result of that, not, I want to make sure I understand what it is so we can address those issues going forward. And in those cases, what they'll find often is that closed-loop process with the customer that demonstrates that you're listening to them allows them to save accounts. And they've had several examples where they can say, I saved a $2 million account because I did close the loop with them and I demonstrated that we're committed to their experience and to delivering a positive experience for them. And often they also result in upsell opportunities. We've had one of our clients in the medical device industry said that 1 out of every 2 of those kind of closed-loop processes generate an upsell opportunity because they really demonstrate the commitment to the client. So in business-to-business organizations, really getting that information operationalized into the sales organization, into the service organization in a way that allows them to do immediate response will often create these kind of increased business. They not only improve the relationship, but they also get increased business opportunities. Another company that does this really well is Symantec, and Symantec has really operationalized their Net Promoter program across their business to consumer, their business to business, their partner channels, their employees, really genuinely across the enterprise. And the Symantec Norton products, which is a consumer product for security on your PC, probably one of the most committed customers that we work with in terms of really improving the customer experience. And they can tell you a story on how, I mentioned earlier about managing this complexity. In their support center, they'll ask you for some feedback on that support experience. And in that process, they determined that they were having some issues with the customer satisfaction because of the offshore call centers, the language barriers of those that were addressing those questions. So they implemented the ability to do chat functions online, to take control of consumers' computer through remote control, which then allowed them to resolve the issue very quickly. Now, what was interesting is their Net Promoter Scores weren't necessarily moving at the same improvement level that they were seeing in their support experience. And what they found by getting insight from consumers across the journey, that one of the biggest issues that was driving their Net Promoter Score was around being able to find support. So clearly the support organization wasn't going to identify that problem because only the people that found them were providing feedback. And so the product organization put the ability to push for support or instantly contact support within the product. And as a result of that, they've seen significant improvements in their Net Promoter Score and significant improvements in their market share in their business. And so I think what you see at Symantec is an example of the complexity of multiple touch points in the enterprise, but the opportunity to really monitor that and evaluate how one experience is affecting the overall customer experience, and then taking both immediate actions and longer-term actions that create that customer loyalty and helps them to achieve growth. And I think it really illustrates also a real commitment to improving that customer experience and really doing the right things so that they can build loyalty in the market.
To learn more about relationship strategy, visit www.one2onemedia.com.